Hello, world. Normally, I would save my commentary just for Canada and what they do, since I'm Canadian, and I don't think it's really my place to tell anybody else what they should be doing in their own country. But this is really starting to get a little bit annoying with what's happening over in Russia and Ukraine here right now. Since the vast majority of you people seem to think that a few false heads are actually true. Okay, number one, Crimea was not annexed by Russia. They weren't. Get that through your fucking head. What had happened is after the coup, the local government was being threatened by Russia, for sure, to be sanctioned because that was their warm water port for Russia to bring in goods, services, as well as their naval ships for mooring and for repairs and stuff like that. The local government, which is pro-Russian because the vast majority of the population, to the tune of about 90-95%, are either Russian or Russian-Ukrainian through blood relationships, marriage, past families, the whole nine yards. They had a referendum, and to the tune of, I think it was like 89 or 90%, maybe a little more, voted to go with Russia. They didn't want anything to do with Ukraine anymore. And on top of that, the eastern portion of Ukraine is extremely pro-Russian. It's the western side that's pro-EU. Now, again, what was going on during that time was a referendum for the whole country to get signed on to either going with the EU and their financial package that they were offering, or go with the Russia, or it was called Russo-Sino Economic Pact, where Ukraine would have been its still sovereign nation under the umbrella of Russia, China, and a couple other satellite countries as well for the Silk Road, where Ukraine would have been essentially paying nothing for energy ever again. They would have been rich beyond belief, and it would have all been theirs, right? So now what has happened ever since the coup people joined up with the EU because they're pro-West, right? And that's when the president of the country at the time ended up having to flee in the middle of the night to Russia, where I think he's still there. Could be. Anyways, since then, in 2013, 2014, when all this stuff happened, the EU government, which, believe it or not, the leader of the party that actually sparked this whole thing was essentially like Jon Stewart from The Daily Show. He was a comedian, and he sparked basically the same thing that the United States had with him and Stephen Colbert when they were doing that mock campaign. When was that? That was back when Bush was still around, right? So they had this mock campaign. Well, this guy was actually fucking serious, and he ended up getting huge amounts of support on the West, which was a minority. And they staged a coup in Kiev, and yes, it is Kiev. It's not Kyiv, it's Kiev. Get that fucking through your head. This is another bunch of nonsense. And they took out the government in one fell swoop. I was there. I saw the snipers up on the tops of the hotels, firing shots, bombs blowing off, like 50-gallon drums of gasoline and diesel and everything like that exploding in the square. It was amazing. And I was being rushed out of the country first thing in the next morning. Couldn't get out of the city. Everything was completely locked down. Military had surrounded the entire place, but they weren't going in. They didn't have orders from the president, since the president had already fucked off up to Russia. So they didn't know what to do. Now, from then to this point here, the Ukrainian government has been punking Putin for almost 10 years straight, going into deals, economic pacts, and then pulling out at the last minute, and then putting all of these, excess demands and whatever else. And, like even just as so much as just a few days ago, the Ukrainian president was saying nothing was happening. He said it to the world. No, there's no risk here. There's nothing happening, even though Russia already had 150,000 troops on the border because they knew what was happening. They knew this guy. He lied through his fucking teeth. And he was playing a punk role again until they can get the armament into the country. As soon as Biden sent over all of those anti-tank and anti-aircraft missiles, you knew he had to go in because they were starting to garner support from the EU and NATO. Now, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but if you attack one country that's in NATO, you attack them all, and they're all under the military pact that they have. Then it's basically world war. It's unbelievable. You guys have been following lies for the last 10 years on this fucking issue. And it's huge. Ukraine right now is probably one of the richest countries in the Eastern Bloc, next to Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan is unbelievable. Nobody knows it. They're next. Actually, it happened probably a couple weeks ago. But do you know that? I would imagine most of you don't. They had a little uprising there, and the Russian forces ended up having to go in at the request of the criminal government that's in charge, and they took out everybody. They took out the whole works of them. Do you know that? Probably not. So now they're going to be having elections for actual representation, the whole 9 yards, and it's going to become a more law-abiding nation. Like, they wiped out the police, they wiped out lawyers, they wiped out judges, they wiped out Supreme Courts, they wiped out everything. Took them all out. Because they were all corrupt. And if anybody thinks that I'm praising Putin, trust me, I'm not. The guy he's quite the fucking hard ass. But the downfall of the Ukraine, which is the topic at the moment, has fallen hard since the coup. It's basically full of transvestites. It's become a drug-laden, alcohol-fused country, because that's free now, or pretty darn close to it. You can buy like a full liter of beer for less than 50 cents, and everybody is like, there's no incentive to work. None. And on top of that as well, the gas reserves that were supposed to be going up into Russia for processing to come back into the Ukraine, they've been tapping it off and sending it over to the EU to be processed over in Germany and Latvia and Lithuania and a couple other places as well, and then sent back without Russia knowing. Well, guess what? They fucking found out. That belongs to Russia. Again, on top of this stuff, Russia gave Ukraine its sovereignty with stipulations to not fuck around, or we're going to come and take it back. They fucked around. Now they're coming back. I'm not cheering for it, but that's just the way that it is. Anyways, comment down below, and if I find some interesting comments, I'll reply back. Enjoy. It's going to be a hell of a show for the next little while. Might want to stock up on gas and stuff because, well, we're not producing shit. Thanks, Trudeau. And Biden as well. could have been energy independent by now. But guess what? You voted for that fucking retard that we have as a prime minister. Think twice next time. All right? Good night.